The dangers of working in the cannabis industry as security.
Check it out.
Check it out. All that legal stuff. Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're doing. I'm having a good day today. So Sean a while back posted a video about the dangers of working security in the cannabis industry, and while my experiences didn't really pertain so much in that area as far as cartel claimed gang zone areas, I did happen to see some cartel activity in my work, even in Northern California. However, some of the biggest threats that I think I came across doing security in the cannabis industry was related more to organized and semi-organized crime. And this was basically to the effect of either burglaries or robberies. And we'll get a little more detail into that. So, working at a dispensary as security, in my experience, the biggest threat was actually during the times that vendors were delivering products to the dispensary. So, in my experiences working in the cannabis industry and guarding dispensaries, one of the biggest times of risk during the day was when deliveries were being made. And what would typically happen is the delivery driver would be followed from the warehouse all day long, and the driver of this other car would watch them and look for the most opportune time to strike that driver and steal what they have on them. And what happens is it's a cash-only industry, so driver delivers a large amount, a high-value amount of cannabis products, and then they're given cash in exchange in payment for that. And so somebody who's looking to pull off a heist is going to wait for the most opportune time to strike that driver and take either their products that they have left in the car or the cash. And the driver typically puts that cash in a drop box that's bolted down to the car. So, and many of those cars are also GPS tracked. So they're going to try to get that cash before it gets put in the drop box, and they're going to try to get that product beforehand. So as a security guard during a delivery, it's important to watch the entire area around the dispensary. If the driver parks in an area, pay attention primarily to the areas where another person can park and watch that driver, watch that car. So if you're at a dispensary and you see there's a certain area that the delivery drivers park, go there and look at all the vantage points and see where other people could park to keep an eye on that car. And those are the spots that these drivers are typically going to sit. So when during a delivery, look for people sitting in cars in the street that have a visual range of the delivery driver. But not only that, but keep an eye out for all the other areas as well. And just look for people that are sitting in their cars or driving back and forth. And take note of license plate description of the car, because that it would be considered suspicious activity, especially during a delivery. In my opinion, that is probably one of the most dangerous times of the day at a dispensary. Most of the time, from what I've been seeing, if a dispensary is going to be, if the product's going to be stolen from a dispensary, it happens after hours when there's no staff there, and typically there's no security. They lock everything up, all the cash up in a safe, and everything else is locked up in the rooms. And so they will try to break into the dispensary after hours to avoid confrontation with staff and security. But not to say that it can't happen during the day. So still, maintain vigilance, be safe, be careful. You do not want to let your guard down at any point, at any time during the day. So maintain your operational security throughout the entire day. Keep your eyes open, because it's always a risk, especially with such a high value. Speaking of value, as far as cannabis is concerned. Plain old dried cannabis buds or flowers, as they call them, typically the street value is about $2,000 to $3,000 per pound. Okay, now that's going to lead me into working at the farms, because this is where you're going to be a little more cautious with the farm aspect of things, because you're dealing with a larger quantity of dried cannabis product. And in my experience with a commercial cannabis farm, legal cannabis farm, 150 plants is probably going to yield anywhere between 70 to 130 pounds of dried cannabis. And so you're talking anywhere between $150 to $200,000 in cannabis product, which is a significant amount. And you're only looking at about maybe 90 pounds, 100 pounds. Easy to get away with. It's a very small amount as far as weight goes, but a very high value. So it's very attractive to a lot of criminals to try to rob these cannabis farms right after the trimming is done. So after all the work has been done, they come in and they try to take the product, because it's at the smallest size per pound, so it's not heavy. They can get away with it easily. So during the trimming season, if you're working at a cannabis farm, that is one of the times that is most at risk for being robbed. And usually there's a guard posted 24 hours a day at these farms. So a robbery is most likely what would happen. You're looking at in most cases a minimum 2-man operation. They're going to have somebody looking out. They're going to have somebody going in, and they probably have another person to back up. So 2 to 3 people is typical with a lot of these cannabis farm robberies. And so at this point, if you're a guard on site and everybody else has gone home, it's you against multiple people at this point. And so it's important to maintain your operational security, watch your surroundings, be vigilant, do regular patrols of the property, the perimeter. You know, guys, it's a dangerous industry to work in due to the risk and due to the value of the product for such a small amount. So very attractive to these criminals, because it's an easy score. And if they can get away with it, then they will. If they think they can get away with it, then they will. So in order to prevent something like this happening, you as a security guard need to make it difficult for them to pull off something like this. If you are being vigilant and they see your presence and they see that you're watching, they are not going to try to rob your site. And so the biggest key to this is to make sure that you are doing your job by watching, being vigilant, being visible, and that's going to be deterrence by your presence. So that's one of the biggest things to your safety is make yourself visible, make sure that they know that you're watching, and make them as uncomfortable with hitting your property as you can possibly do. Make them uncomfortable, make them go somewhere else. And that's the key to your safety. That's the key to the safety of all the employees working at the places that you're guarding. Is just try to prevent it from happening in the first place by doing your job thoroughly. Don't mess around if you're working at a cannabis site. It's just not cool. Me personally, I've had a few situations happen while working at a farm. One time I was working graveyard shift. I was up walking around looking at the perimeter from the center of the property, and it was probably 40 degrees outside. It was cold. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a flash of light off in the distance down the ravine a little ways. And so I drew my attention there and I started watching. And then I saw the light again, and it looked like a cell phone light. It looked like they were using the light of a cell phone screen to light the pathway that they were coming up. So I moved down to the end of the road where it comes up that ravine, and I'm watching, and then I see the light again. So I pull out my Stinger flashlight, which is a really bright light, and I light up down the road, and about 30, 40 yards away from me or so, there was a guy with a shotgun in his hand, and he froze. The minute I lit him up, he just froze. He did not expect it, and as soon as I saw that, I drew my weapon, and I yelled at him to freeze and to drop the weapon. And I yelled so loud that nothing came out of my voice. I mean, I literally overextended my voice, and it was like I lost my voice. So I had to, I had to actually yell not as loud to get something to come out. And it seemed like an eternity, but it was probably maybe 2-3 seconds. He turned around and took off from where he came from, running. So I started to chase him because I was still on my property, and he's running away from me. So I'm chasing him off the property, and then he goes around a blind corner. And at that point, I stopped and I retreated. I went back to the center of the compound because I couldn't see him anymore, and I didn't know if he had more guys waiting around the corner or if he was going to turn around and shoot me as soon as I came around the corner. So I retreated back, and I was breathing heavy. I had an adrenaline rush, crazy experience, and I'm trying to listen, and I can hear his footsteps. He's running away down the distance. And this property that I was working on is about 40 acres in size, which is a pretty decent size property. I would say, I don't know how to give you an example, but it's a large property. And this farm was right in the center of this property. And I can hear dogs barking on the other side of the property from where this guy was at. And I could hear footsteps over there in the distance. So now I know that there's 2 guys that were approaching me on this property in the middle of the night, 1 or 2 in the morning. It was late. So I had at least 2 guys. And then I hear a vehicle door shut, and I hear a diesel engine start up, sort of a diesel pickup truck. Chances are there were 3 guys now, because I'm pretty sure there was a driver sitting there waiting. They're not going to leave a vehicle out there and try to carry all the stuff they're stealing back to the truck. They're going to have them drive in as soon as they get the clear. So I'm pretty certain there were 3 people at this point involved in this. And then I hear the truck drive down the road off in the distance. I can hear the truck stop. I hear a car door shut again, and then they take off. And so at this point, I can say with confidence there were at least 3 people involved with this attempted robbery. And they were going to flank me from 2 different sides, and they were going to try to steal. And I was the only one up. There were 2 other farm workers, but they were asleep inside one of the houses. And so I was, for all intents and purposes, alone at this time, and they were going to flank me. It was during harvest season. There was tons of product that was already dried and trimmed, sitting in big plastic totes, ready to go. And if it wasn't for the fact that I saw that light out of the corner of my eye, they probably would have got the jump on me, and it probably would have been a really bad situation for me and for the farm and for everybody involved. So got to pay attention. You got to stay on top of it. Got to be on your game. You got to be on your A game. You got to be above the A game. You got to pay attention to your other senses, because there's just something, with security, they talk about the gut feeling. Pay attention to that, because many times if there's something to it. And so if you get a gut feeling, check it out. Even if it turns out to be nothing, check it out every time, because that could be your life on the line. So pay attention to your gut feelings, guys. A lot of risks involved there. Sean pointed out a very valid risk, and that's very true for some areas, especially with a lot of cartel activity. However, there are a lot of other risks that make cannabis especially dangerous. Cannabis, anything with high cash amounts or large value for a small amount of product, going to be a high risk, and cannabis definitely falls in that. And because of the fact that cannabis is so easy to sell on the black market on the streets, it's an easy product to turn into cash. So very high risk, very dangerous industry to work in. But because of the industry, there could be potentially a lot of money in that industry for security. So just got to make sure you're on your A game. You pay attention. You don't slip up. Just operational security is absolutely the foremost thing you got to do while working in this industry. So anyways, that's it. That's all I got here. Hope you guys have a great day. You stay safe out there.